Yeah. Yeah. I know they mad for no reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Gotta move fast for a reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Oh, 700K, I'm selling a Bitcoin. Haters mad, but they listen to this one. More profit coming to my direction. You know me, I don't need a mention. I got the remedy, ooh, yeah. They don't just follow me, ooh, yeah. You say allegedly, ooh, yeah. You would subscribe to me, ooh, yeah. Staring at chart, drawing a line. Make a decision, you out of time. Huddling, huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. See on stage. On-chain revolution. Guns. Boom.
Welcome back to On-Chain Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire crypto ecosystem. What is up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're back with another On-Chain hour, and right now we have Bitcoin sitting at 90,600. Bitcoin got back down to 89. It was not looking good this morning. It is starting to feel a little better. It does feel like the price action has been manipulated back up to the upside because it looked very bad a little bit ago. Nothing good happening right now in the markets when it comes to headlines. We do have some really we got some tough stuff to talk about. We really got to start talking about, you know, what is actually happening, and is Morgan Stanley pulling the strings here? Because 1010 could have been actually caused by them. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into a lot of different things. Optimism. They're going to be potentially using the Superchain transactions, which is basically like the ones from Base and all the other chains that they're kind of helping roll up the transactions and land them on Ethereum. They're going to be using those fees, 50% of them anyway, and actually buying back and burning the Optimism token. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot of macro stuff because next week is a big macro week. We do have CPI next week, PPI next week, which is going to lead us into the end of this month. You know, but the big thing is this Friday as well, right? This Friday we have, I mean, I don't know if it's good for markets or bad for markets, but it's looking like the Supreme Court is going to overturn Trump's tariffs, which is going to wipe, you know, I think $200 billion that he's potentially trying to give back to the American people. Gone, right? Completely gone. He would have to return that to everybody. I mean, they have the money. It's adding up in one wallet, so it's not going to come from taxpayers, but it's going to be going back to the people who've been paying these high tariffs, Americans who are purchasing items, and, you know, the people who are manufacturing the items, right? So that's going to suck because Trump has promised that money multiple times for stimulus checks. He has promoted, you know, all this stuff. You know, we're going to get rid of federal tax and all this stuff, and we're going to pay with it with the tariffs. Well, I mean, Friday could be a smack in the face and lead to a lot of uncertainty. But you got to remember, when this did go in place, the markets did dump. So will the markets pump if this gets reversed? So I have no idea. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, well, we're going to look into it. We're going to dig deep into it and kind of make sure that we are trying to find the best strategies for our portfolio while also trying to make sure that we understand where the opportunity is. We're going to get into that as well. I'm excited for today's show. I'm excited to kind of see where this year goes, right? I'm excited for this January. I almost want January to go away now, right? Because like all like in December, I was hoping I just wanted to get rid of 2025. Am I sitting here waiting for get rid of January at this point? I don't know. But let's see if Yagobi knows. Let's bring out my partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up? What's
going on, man? How you feeling today? How's everything?
I want to look at
2025 in the rearview mirror, but for some reason, I feel like it keeps creeping back up into, my front of my vision. But no, joking aside, seems like smoke and mirrors a little bit to start the year with some positive price action. And then, you know, like this morning, like you said, the manipulation of the price and stuff like that, right? It's you get into a mindset to where you know not to constantly look at that, but how can you not? Especially if you are covering the space, right? And then there's this like turmoil, like from a country standpoint, and then the plan just needs to feel smooth at some point. Like we're working towards something, and it seems to be a hard thing to get momentum on.
Yeah, now I'm questioning, can the markets pump with Trump as president? Like, I honestly don't know if they can. He just leads too much uncertainty. With Biden, you knew what you were getting. You knew what to expect. You
Like
knew
he
what
wasn't
Gary
in
Gensler would.
control, other people
Yeah.
were in control, that type of thing.
Well, it's just like they weren't making a lot of changes. The changes were very slow. It was, you knew what was going to happen before it happened. Nothing was just like, this is what we're doing, going into effect tomorrow. And everyone's like, oh no, it was like, in a few months, we might be doing something. And, and it was very slow, and it was very just like, the markets love that. The markets love certainty of just knowing that, my money is safe for now. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and Trump started the war and then everything goes to zero.
Yeah, and if you remember his first term, it was different. I think there was a different agenda too. If you think about the build up to November of last year, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened, right? Whenever there was an assassination attempt on him and different things, and that builds up a lot of stuff that might not be so obvious on the surface level in terms of animosity and vengeance and stuff like that. So the first term was a focus on, wanting to look good in markets and all these things. And I just don't know if that's still in there, because there's so many other objectives maybe that need to be checked off the list, right? And you can talk about some of this other stuff that you're going to get deeper into here a bit, but it seems to be that he's going to be messing with TradFi a bit. And you think, oh, is he because he wants to push people to our space? I hope so, but I don't think that's going to work. I think 2025 showed that TradFi says, hey, we're the strong, big, brute force. We're not going to just flip over to, crypto so easily, just so quickly, to where everybody in crypto is going to benefit from it, including the Trump organization, everybody, right? And so what does that mean for this year? We know there's a lot of infrastructure stuff that's happening. That is good, but it's only good if there's synergy. And I feel like the synergy's lost. It's not there yet. We don't have a huge alignment with this space, and it seems like there was momentum with infrastructure with TradFi and Web 2 and stuff, but it just hasn't played out just yet. So we'll see if all of these headlines in 2025 and some more coming out today about this infrastructure build out, coming to a really strong point, if it ever really benefits the space. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm starting to think now that we might have to wait to the back end of the year, right? Because you got to think Trump. No, honestly though,
I know. I'm just laughing because like everybody's constantly like, like you said, I can't wait till this month's over. We were like, we can't wait till December's over, 2025, right? So
yeah, I mean, but think about it though, right? So he has Congress, he has the Senate, he has everything right now, right? He only has that for potentially another 12 months, right? 11 months really. So in that set, right, he's going to knock out a lot of the stuff that's going to shake markets, a lot of the stuff that people are going to be like, oh, crap. But a lot of stuff that he wants to put in place before we get this new. And I do think we get a new Senate. I do think the Democrats kind of win back some seats. I don't know. I just feel that that's going to happen. And if that does happen, though, it's going to put a lot of certainty back in the markets, because Trump can't do things like he once could, right? So I think this year he's going to shake everything up. And then next year, markets are forward looking. So I think the back half of next year, we're going to potentially start seeing some certainties, and markets can kind of do what they need to do. But, up until potentially July, I just don't see a bull market in crypto.
Yeah. And if you look at it, it could be this, situation to where you didn't expect it to benefit crypto. But if you look in the past, I mean, crypto's really just done its best in these uncertainty type situations with its own kind of infrastructure and clarity and stuff, right? So, people, for me, I think about it logically and I say, well, that would suck because now we're kind of up in the air about, some of these things that we need to be passed and all this stuff. But, in 2021, 2017, the biggest bull markets that we've ever had, we've been in this gray area. So maybe being in a gray area for our space might be a good thing, where people are just like, you know what, like, we're just going to gamble on crypto this year and it's all going to shoot up. I don't know. But it would seem, from just like I mentioned, like a infrastructure and fundamental standpoint, a step back if we don't have continually like forward progress with the clarity with infrastructure and stuff like that. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with TradFi though. Like, some of the statements and stuff that came out from him yesterday were pretty big statements, and that doesn't make them happy because you're taking away potential profit centers for them.
And they had a red day yesterday. Well, they had a green day yesterday, but then the markets closed, and he put out these Truth Social tweets that we're going to talk about later. And their overnight session died completely. There's some of the stock traders I was listening to this morning. They basically said they got stopped out of all their trades. Like everything they had that was long got obliterated yesterday. So, and like I see, he was like, then I can't even get out of my trades because there's not enough liquidity. I'm those guys, they use really big money. So it was just like, damn. So let's kind of get into today's title here. We're going macro today. Fed and stimulus decide 2026. What happens next could break or make or break crypto, right? So we got the U.S. initial jobless claims for today. Came in at 208 versus 210 expected. So jobless claims came in a little less, because that really goes into next week. We have CPI and PPI. Tuesday is CPI, Wednesday is PPI, and then the FOMC is the 28th. So all in the next 3-4 weeks we have CPI, PPI, and then FOMC. But the big thing though is the Supreme Court ruling tomorrow could trigger 133 billion shock. Bitcoin dropped 10% to its local bottom in the wake of Trump's Liberation Day tariff announcement. So that, remember, Liberation Day was the creation of this money. Right when that happened, that's when it started. That's when the tariff started, and Bitcoin dropped 10%. So what happens Friday? Because Polymarket's betting that they've ruled that what he's doing is illegal and he has to return the money. So what happens to Bitcoin? So it's a lot going on here.
A lot is going on, and this does worry me a bit because I thought we were kind of past a lot of this stuff, man, but we're still dealing with it a year later, right? A year later, we're dealing with the tariff talk, right? And it's frustrating because now, you have a good point to where maybe like if it's reversed, right? Then you basically bring back like globalization kind of gets a little bit more strength now because you go back to a little bit of the way that things were before. Right. But what does that look like from an infrastructure standpoint? What does that look like for the plans of like the economy this year? Because it's more uncertainty, right? Because now is the administration going to try to fight this? Is it they're going to go back and forth in court and all these things? I don't even know if they can go back again, if this is ruled, and if that's the case, then what happens to the overall plan for tariffs and all these things? So it's frustrating that we're still dealing with this and not being able just to move forward.
Yeah, I looked into this. So Congress could overrule this, right? Trump would have to take it to Congress, and he would probably have to give the Democrats something in return in some type of bill or something. But he could technically, because you only need two houses, two parts, right? So right now it's Trump administration doing it. If the Supreme Court comes in and says no, this is illegal, they can go to Congress and actually pass a bill to make this legal and make what he's done over the last 8 months legal. So just because this ends doesn't mean that they immediately have to give back the money. It just means it's going to be in limbo and a lot more uncertainty to what he can and can't do. Right. So, and then we're kind of sitting there. But, the big thing here is Bitcoin did drop on the news of that this was happening originally in April. And now do we get a pump? Because 10% pump because of tariffs. 10% pump will send us over 100K.
10% pump because tariffs are illegal now and no more tariffs?
Yeah. It dropped 10% on them becoming legal, or thought they were legal and now they're illegal. So that should go the other way, right?
And then you think, was it the plan all along. I don't think that's the case, you know.
No.
But yeah, because like that would, but a 10% jump up would be wild if that happened. And then I mean, like I just don't even know what the next step would be, though, right? And if we can stop talking about tariffs, then I would
I
just take
know.
whatever situation comes out, like whatever it is, either
Well,
way, one or the other.
That kind of goes into our title, though, Fed and stimulus. If we don't get these tariffs, we're not getting no stimulus next year. You know, it's not going to happen.
Well, this year it
Like,
would be.
well, this year, right?
Yeah.
So, we want to get anything. We want to get no tax breaks that he's planning in April. All this money is $130 billion is supposed to go to the American people. That's what Trump is saying.
Well, the
right?
tax
To eliminate
breaks.
federal,
Yeah.
eliminate federal income tax. That will be a big portion of these revenues going forward, right? Because I mean, federal income taxes, I'm sure over $100 billion from the American people. So potentially eliminate that and all this other stuff. I don't know, dude. Like if Friday goes the way I think it's going, what's that tomorrow, right? If tomorrow goes the way I think it's going, then it's not going to be good.
And I wonder how it would affect the big beautiful bill, because you know I know some of that is just them getting that extra, you know, capital or cash, right? But it's not from the tariffs for the big beautiful bill. Not necessarily much of it. Most of it's not. But how would it affect, you know, some of the stuff that might be contributing from it, right?
It's all
like
printed money. It's already signed.
so if
into
it's
law,
all
it
it's
has to
if
be-
100% of it's the Fed, then yeah, I guess it wouldn't affect it much. But just the mindset, I think they put that together thinking about like tariffs too, you know. So having extra disposable income and that type of stuff. But then you roll in and say, okay, well, was the whole oil situation kind of a part of this backup plan? I think that the administration probably has
Yeah.
backup plans, right? Because they obviously knew that this could be an outcome, and if it is an outcome, I'm curious to see what the backup plan will be. But to your point, yes, that would disappoint a lot of people, and I don't think it would be good for points wise as well for the current administration, because you have the public that has been hearing about stimulus this, stimulus that, tax break this, tax break that, and now all of a sudden you're thinking about what does this look like again, right? And we can't trust it anymore whenever they bring that up. So a lot of stuff that needs to get sorted out. I hope it just gets sorted out. But you know, myself, he makes a good point. He says, "Gotta love the FUD," right? He comments, "Gotta love the FUD," and you know, that's my point. I know I get really conspiracy theory a lot, but I think it's fun. Number one, number two, FUD. It's intentional. Well, it's intentional for reasons, right? So,
yeah, 100%. So, Fed decision in January is looking like 93% no change. So it's looking like we're not going to get a Fed cut. But then Scott Bessett comes out today. He goes on CNBC and he says he's calling for the Fed to cut rates. He's telling the Fed, "Hey, cut." The Fed's like, "No, man. Like we cut already 3 times. Like kick rocks." So I don't know. And then, you know, in May we get a new Fed chairman. I don't think we get another rate cut until May. I just can't say it. I think
yeah, but when do you feel like we actually start to feel the transition going to QE? Do you think that takes another 4 months? Do you think that happens sooner? Do we feel it at all?
So you got to remember what QE was created for. QE was created in 2008 to replenish the economy. The economy was beaten down, right? And then we got QE again in COVID, right? There's no reason for QE, right? There's no reason for it. The economy is at an all-time high. I don't think we could get QE this year. I don't. But I do think we get rate cuts. I do think inflation drops drastically, but I don't think we get quantitative easing unless something happens. And I've been looking into this. I'm glad you kind of asked this, because I've been kind of digging into asking ChatGPT and asking some of these other AIs, like, you know, like why would they do stimulus at an all-time high? And ChatGPT is like basically like, you know, there's no reason. Quantitative easing was created. Yeah, well, I mean, quantitative easing was created for a reason, and there is no reason right now to extend that, right? So it's like there's no reason to have it.
Yeah, I mean, but do you feel like the everyday person is hurting a little bit more than what the numbers are stating, though? I feel like that is a little bit the case, right? I think there are a lot of these major industries that are doing pretty well, right? You know, obviously stock market looks good, AI sectors and stuff like that, major corporations, cloud, you know, cloud security, all that stuff looks good. But, you know, I think the everyday person that, you know, might be in an industry that is starting to transition to more automation and stuff like that could feel like that, right? Because I do know the numbers look better. I would imagine, and I got to do more research on that and probably connect with my buddies a little bit more too on that and see how they're feeling as well. But I do feel like it's not as great as everybody is saying it feels, right? Or it is. I guess you could say. But with that being said, you know, in terms of the stimulus, I think the reason they would do it is for the midterms. That's the pretty much the only reason that they would try to do it. Is try to pull that rabbit out of the hat
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, you know, Republicans did this for you."
I see a stimulus. I just don't see where the Fed is buying bonds all crazy, like, right. So I do see a stimulus, which is not considered quantitative easing. The quantitative easing is when the Fed kind of goes into the market and buys bonds up every single day.
They did a little
have
bit
been
already.
doing though.
Yeah.
They've been doing a little bit, but that's never like quantitative easing is like where they're just buying
Aggressively.
every day aggressively, right? It's just like right now they're buying when you know they feel like you need it. But my big thing is too is you got to remember, dude. I don't know how it's like there in Texas, but here in Philadelphia. Eagles games ticket prices are insane, which shows me that people are still buying. Sixers tickets are like $100 for shit seats, right? $200 for good seats. So people are still buying. These prices drop drastically, right? When the economy's doing shit because people don't have extra money to do these things. People are staying home. People are not staying home in Philadelphia. I don't know how it is anywhere else in the world, but I know if I go anywhere on a Saturday or a Sunday, bowling alley, it's packed, which shows me people still have extra money right now. You have back in 2008, dude, you can go to a bowling alley on Friday night and get a lane. No problem at all. I mean, you know what I mean? Now it's like you're in line for a little bit. You're waiting for someone else to be done. Restaurants, same thing. You go to you know, some fancy restaurants around here and you're waiting 15, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Back when, you know, 2008 and stuff like that, you can get in right away. There was no line ever. So that shows me again, people still have disposable income that they're willing to chill out for experiences.
I see that. I see some of that. You know, but they are more picky a little bit, I would say, unless they're just individually better off than the majority, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, obviously there's certain people that they just love golf and they'll spend $200 a week on it, or they love
Well,
this
in
and they'll just spend
economy,
that.
you can't do that because
Well,
you're more worried about your bills because
It
you're
it
just
dep
not making as much.
Yeah, but it depends on the individual, like I said, right?
Yeah,
Now, you know, the average across the board, you know, I'm not hearing a bunch of my buddies, you know, looking for a new job or, you know, complaining about things like that.
Yeah.
So I agree with you for the most part there with that. But does that stay the same? Maybe we feel it more because of this current space that's directly, you know, getting hit a little bit more, right?
We're the only ones getting hit. Everywhere
Yeah.
else, all-time high. If you had any asset, you know, real estate, stocks, bonds, gold, silver, if you any other asset, you had a great 2025. Amazing 2025. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like it's really just crypto is feeling we didn't have our run. We didn't have it. We did. Bitcoin did. If you held Bitcoin, if you held Ethereum, you know, if you sold at the top, like, you know what I mean? It's like you sold Bitcoin at the
It
top. I
makes you
don't know, dude.
stronger. It makes you stronger and makes you more innovative. I hope. I'm
Does
just
it?
trying to be.
Or
I mean,
we're just
well,
picking the
well,
wrong sector.
well. The whole thing is that like you know we know that there's this whole push for individuals to try to build more and stuff like that. That I think is a good thing because it's gonna you know allow people to be more innovative in our space, which will trickle out. It will trickle out, but you know, getting through kind of sitting there while everybody gets to eat their piece of cake. It's like a Milton from Office Space. Everybody got their piece of cake
Yeah.
except for him, and then he just blew the whole damn thing down.
Crypto is the Milton of Office Space. There you go. So I talked about it earlier, but Trump he put in a couple of things yesterday off of Truth Social. So yesterday he went on Truth Social and he was just giant rants, but one of the rants really smacked BlackRock in the face. Isn't it crazy how BlackRock seems to be the only one who's not kissing his ass? Larry Fink has
Do they
been
have
affiliated
to?
to the well, Larry Fink has been a Democratic supporter for a long time. He's been one of the top financiers of
Why
the.
wouldn't he though?
I'm just saying, but like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, everyone else is going to Trump and kissing the ring, but BlackRock is not, right? I mean, dude, every tech company has kissed the ring. They
Yeah.
all have. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
From
agree with
Apple to
I,
Microsoft, and
I
he's an
agree with
investor
you.
in all those companies,
I
right?
agree
For
with
him
you.
not to go kiss the ring is weird. But now he's sending shots at BlackRock, and he says institutional investors from you can no longer buy single family homes. You can't go. That's
So
one of their biggest wins in 2020 was buying
yeah.
all that property and it
So
going up.
so I feel like he hasn't because he hasn't really been kind of pushed like what you just said. This is
Yeah.
kind of one of the first times that that's happened. Blackstone being a
Mhm.
child company of BlackRock, but I remember during COVID they took complete advantage of it, and they're not the only
Yep.
ones. Corporations do that when
And
steel's
Biden just let
short.
them do it, dude.
Yeah, when steel's short, then a big corporation will go buy up all the steel before
Yeah.
everybody else can get it, right? So, but you have to also remember who benefits the most from globalization, and it's got to be BlackRock. I mean, if
Yeah.
they own that much, share of every major successful American company that's been, working with all of these other countries from manufacturers, ex, exporting to the companies and all these things, like they did not like the fact that this was going to get shaken up. They weren't going to be vocal about it because that's not what BlackRock does, because it's not smart
Mhm.
to do that, right? But the companies that really were in the scope were the tech companies, especially
Mhm.
the search and the social media, right?
Yeah.
Because that is who this administration and the conservative side, the right side, felt like was going after them, and they needed to be like whipped into shape, which they seemed like they were at the inauguration, right? They were like in their tech bro group over there, right? But with Larry Fink, I think it's a different beast. It's almost kind of like the top of the food chain when it comes to
Mhm.
globalization and global business, and so they have to adjust the most. But because they're involved so deep, their roots are so deep into it, from owning a little bit of all of these major
Yeah.
successful top 100 stocks or whatever, right, to them buying up real estate and all these different aspects of it. They got to play their cards very, very carefully, and that's how they became BlackRock, right? That's how they
Yeah.
became BlackRock. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they respond to this, but you have to admit, though, when you heard about the corporations, institutions buying up all of these subdivision homes in COVID, you kind of were
Yeah.
like, that's kind of messed up.
It is 100%, and it drove house, and there was a big factor in them driving housing. They apparently they owned 1 in 5 houses in the United States. Like
Yeah.
1/5 of all the homes is owned and rented out by BlackRock, and most of them are sitting there empty because they're only bought to as an investment. They're not there to have a family in there. So I love this, by the way. And there's something else here though, which no one's kind of thinking about. So real estate giant, we talk about Blackstone, BX falls 9% after Trump announces this. So now if they're forced to sell all these homes, they're going to be sitting on a lot of money. Can Blackstone become a crypto company and now go buy some cheap Bitcoin, some cheap Ethereum, some XRP, and kind of use, because we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in single family homes now potentially sitting there and like, well, what do you want to do with this money? Well, let's put it in our ETFs. Let's put it in the BlackRock ETFs for now until we figure out something else to do. Gold, Bitcoin, silver, they have them all. So you could see a huge influx now of if this does go into law, because this will have to pass Congress. This isn't something that Trump can just sign in the law. It would need to pass Congress. But if this happens, if Congress doesn't pass it, though, they're a bunch of, they're paid. I mean, if you're not passing this law, you're paid at that point. But if this goes into effect, they're gonna have a lot of money that they made out, and they made tons of money on those homes. They're buying them pre-COVID, and they're sitting on them still, and they're up like 50 to some of them 100%. So they're sitting on tons of money that could potentially flow into crypto.
First of all, they are paid, both sides.
Yeah.
I do think there's going to be pushback, but they're not going to try to make it obvious, because one thing that's been really strategically solid for this current administration is when they bring the issues up, the other side really can't go against it, because it
Yeah.
looks like they're going against the people, right?
Yeah.
And so this is one of those situations. And by the way, the area that I live in is one of the most booming areas in the United States, the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Mhm.
they completely took advantage of this area because there was so much just construction is continually happening. We're going to connect Dallas and Oklahoma. I always say it.
Yeah.
What's going to happen right now? The one thing that I was thinking about. So first, I do think that they could go that route because they have access to all the tools to do that. They have all the knowledge and all the resources for that. So they could do a treasury thing. Secondly, they could also kind of, these type of companies are amazing at loopholes. And so imagine whenever real estate gets tokenized, right? And they're going to be working with the Trump organization and stuff. They could work their finagle their way back into this from a digital asset aspect, right? Down the line, they might have to wait for a couple years until that's actually, in the infrastructure. But there's multiple options for them. And I'm sure they're not like sweating bullets right now necessarily.
Yeah, BlackRock's not worried about it, but they've never been forced into a corner like this. They've never been forced in a corner to kind of where do we want to put this money right now? Do we hold cash? Do we see that inflation is still happening? What do we do? And they could make a quick decision to say just put it all in the Bitcoin ETF because it's the client's money at the end of the day. You can say it's BlackRock's money, whatever, but but BlackRock is they're some of the accounts of some of the richest people in the world are in BlackRock.
Trust them,
fingers, right? So these people want to make money. Keeping that money in cash, I mean that's negative to them because of the inflation. They're losing 2% of that, and that's how these people think. So they're either going to put it in bonds, which I could definitely see it happen, or putting it in some riskier stuff like Bitcoin, Ethereum. But the housing market is risky, so why not just keep that money risky and go in the crypto? So
if they do move it somewhere, I do think it's going to be a place that they have control over. So
ETFs,
if they do put it into Bitcoin, then I think that's a good sign because they feel like Bitcoin is, they have control to be able to.
I hate that
direct it. I know, but they can have they'll be able to direct where it goes, and I know myself probably hates that as well. But I'm just saying from a smart standpoint, right? They don't want the worst thing to do is probably be in cash because that's just you're not earning, you're losing, right? And then where does it go though, right? That'd be really interesting if we could see that, but.
Yeah. 100%. Got some comments here before we get into the Bitcoin price action. Glasshopper says Trump doesn't need Congress for arresting Maduro. He didn't technically, but Biden put a $25 million bond on him or like a bounty on him. So it's I don't think you really need for that situation. I was thinking about that. I was wondering if the soldier got the 25 million bounty that Biden.
No, because they're doing their job. Like
he did all the work. He grabbed the guy, but I don't know. BlackRock loves RWA, Ondo, and Plume, so I believe it's PSYOPs. Yeah. Myself says, tell me we're not in a simulation. I mean,
the simulation is simulating.
Congress didn't pass Maduro and wife abduction. Do you hear Call of Duty Ghosts predicted that event? Really? Did they really? I don't play Call of Duty, so I don't know. That's crazy. Glasshopper says I heard last night Trump just blocked institutions from buying all over the country, not just in San Fran, but all over the country. Raytheon hasn't kissed the ring. Kissing the ring, the best and only option. You got to kiss the ring. You got to kiss the Trump ring. There's nothing you can do.
Well, you got to kiss the ring until it flips and they're kissing the ring, right? I feel like that's what happened with the BlackRocks and stuff like that, where it wasn't the presidents that were really pulling the strings.
Yeah, 100%. Stan says since the channel's UBI resistant, what's the alternative pay? So I'm not UBI resistant. I just don't think that it'll come until at least 2028, 2029. And I think it's going to be put in place by a Democratic president. I just don't see a Republican president putting in an automation tax. So an automation tax is the only way you can do UBI, right? Maybe you can do it with tariffs. I don't think it's going to be enough. But UBI, you're going to have to do a automation tax, which is going to tax every single company that uses automation to the point where it might be cheaper to hire people, right? But that tax now will end up going to everyone, everyone in the U.S. So it'll be automation tax will be 100%. So whatever they make for the year prior is how much the following year you'll get for that for as a stimulus. So if they rack in, you know, $100 billion, then they'll divide that by every American, and that's how much your UBI will be over the course of that year. And you know, if the companies say, hey, we're going to hire people instead, then the UBI tax might drop, or the automation tax might drop a little bit, and people are getting less and less. So there's a lot going on there, but I just cannot see a Republican president pass an automation tax, and without an automation tax, there is no UBI.
Yeah, where's the funds going to come from? Right.
Yeah,
and
has to be the
so
automation tax.
yeah, I mean, that's the only reason you would do it anyways, is because
Yeah.
you know, automation is causing less jobs for humans, right?
Yeah.
We got to remember though, we've been through multiple innovative periods, you know, in people,
Nothing like this.
nothing like this, but you know, it's relative, I feel like, right? It's relative because people were scared whenever we went from, you know, horse and buggy to car, because they felt like,
Yeah.
you know, oh, I breed horses for horses. Imagine that company
Yeah.
that was just constantly breeding horses for transportation. Like, they went out of business, right?
Yeah.
And now horses are only there for like just, you know, leisure riding or sport, right? And so there's so many different periods. The internet was another one where people were just, you know, eventually kind of
Brick and mortar is
concerned.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it did affect it, but people were able to find jobs, you know, working
Anyway.
for their internet companies and stuff. Humans are resilient to be able to figure it out. Now, I do say that like the past couple of years, it felt like it's been harder to figure things out. And the AI era has kind of slapped us in the face, like in terms of here, like, you know, just vomiting on us to where we're just like, whoa, all of a sudden it just got exponentially better
Shit
over
got real.
over a short period of time, right? So, but we'll adapt to it. I think UBI, we're still some time away from that. Like, I think, you know, 20, 28, 29, 30, maybe they'll start having more serious conversations about it.
If you want UBI, you got to vote Democrat. It'll never happen while all these big tech companies are kissing the ring, paying for ballrooms. It just won't happen. It's going to be like a 70% tax on all those companies' revenue. Like, it's going to be something absolutely insane, because that, like, you have to. I mean, that's the only way, to the point where companies are like, I can go buy a Tesla robot, but I got to pay 70% tax, or I can just hire people and pay 10% tax. Like, it's going to get to that point where it's cheaper to run with people than it is to hire a Tesla bot.
Unless those bots can just outproduce the percentage of tax.
Well, that's the thing too. They'll just keep hiring the tax, right? They'll just keep hiring it. That's the only way taxes is the only way to make it even to where companies are hiring people.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to figure out how to rebalance it, right?
Yeah, and that's the only way. The automation tax is real, guys. We got to start preparing for that. But again, without automation tax, there is no UBI, and that will not happen while tech companies are kissing the ring. Not going to happen. But yeah, let's kind of get into crypto price action and crypto bubbles. It's kind of I'm not excited for you to tell me things are going to go bad, bro. I got a feeling you're going to be very negative in the price action, but looking at the charts yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's definitely something that's just another curveball that just got thrown at us this morning, right? So, but before we get into the price action, guys, help us out like you always do. Definitely appreciate the interaction in the chat and all that stuff. The energy you guys are bringing it for sure. But on the YouTube side, smash that like for us, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, all that great stuff I always ask you guys to do every day. And you guys definitely support us through that. And then on the X side, let's share the space, get as many people in here as possible. Shout out to Abstract Crew, to Pump Streams, Zora back live over there as well. And don't forget Rumble and Twitch, and I'm forgetting one, Spotify. I think that is it there. But let's take a look here at what is happening. All right. Oh, my bad. Brought yours up there. But yeah, so we obviously have this candle that just kind of came out of nowhere, right? On the hour chart, as you can see here. It's just like, whoop, boop. Nope, we are turning this train around. But, you know, we have been in this extended sell pressure session, as you can see here, right? So, you know, we did have a little bit of this weak. I don't even count that, honestly. I count this as like one big, you know, sell session here. And so it's about time that things kind of turned around, right? Now, we never even really made it back down to the oversold territory on the stochastics. But the MACD is looking like a pretty decent candle here. But will it be a fake out? That is the question, because we did get down. The wick did actually break down below 90K. We got to 89. So I remember saying 88, 89, probably the lowest. I did not see this getting back to like 86 on this run, at least. I think that's probably saved for the end of this month. But I do think that we pick back up and we, march on. Obviously, the sentiment is a little mixed right now. It is a little confusing. But this is, like I mentioned, we had this up only situation, and then we just kind of, basically some sell down from all of this up only started back in on Wednesday, December 31st, so right before the new year, right? So that's what I'm attributing this to, was just kind of having that up only and some sell down, taking profits here. Now we start really the chop is what I think, and then we'll see when we start that next leg up. Because I will say one thing though, we did hit that resistance level right here, that 90, that 94, almost 95,000 that we haven't been able to get past since like I think it's mid-November. We'll dive into that as well. So what am I thinking for the rest of today? Well, I mean, indicators are indicating that it wants to kind of rebound from the sell pressure and downtrend that we just experienced the past 2 days. So I wouldn't be shocked if we get back over the overbought territory, hang out up here, and just kind of range now. This is where the chop starts, between high 80s and low 90s. I don't think we just go on this crazy run all of a sudden. If we do, I think that would be something to kind of start the next week, maybe a Sunday evening type situation. But that is the hour chart. I feel pretty decent about it. It did throw me off that it was just such a strong like single candle here, but we've had them before, right? So let's see how the rest of today plays. But let's check out the 4 hour to see if we get any support in that thesis here. And the 4 hour is showing us that the sell pressure session is starting to break down. So I'm not there yet. I do want to see this blue line curl up. I want to see us get smaller red candles here and on the MACD, and start to see the stochastics venture closer to that 50-point mark. Once we start to do that, I'll feel better. But again, wouldn't be shocked if we just, on the 4 hour especially, kind of chop here and have a little extension, maybe a lighter, weaker sell pressure extension here for maybe the rest of the day. It's tomorrow, but that's on the 4 hour chart, right? So the hour kind of just ranging, right? The previous chart ranging between, like I said, high 80s, low 90s, and then the 4 hour figuring out, because we're going to get more information on where it really wants to go on the 4 hour and the daily. But I like where we are as of right now, because we're getting out of this like really strong sell pressure on the 4 hour chart. So this could lead into a really good Sunday evening, and that's what I'm hoping for here. And then the daily looks a little scary, just because we've had an extended buy pressure session here. It's kind of the opposite, like I mentioned yesterday, of the hour chart, right? But what we need to see happen is this really catch before it breaks below the 50-point mark on the stochastic RSI. If we can catch here and just kind of hang out in this area and then bounce back up, that would be really great. We have been up in this territory for quite some time, though. If you look over here, we barely visited the oversold territory, which was mid-December. So interesting chart for the daily here. But the one thing that I did want to mention, I did talk about just a second ago, was hitting this resistance level of 90. It's like 94.5, 90, almost 95 if you go by the wicks here, right? We just haven't been able to break above this since, we broke down below it. We weren't above this since, what is this, the 16th, so mid-November. Yeah, I'm about right. So mid-November was the last time, and we were coming down into this new area, this new zone, right? So we need to break above this, because we just haven't been able to do it. We just keep hitting this resistance ceiling here. And so that's when I will feel like, okay, we can go on a run here for the next maybe a couple of weeks until the end of the month, because I do have a feeling that that's going to just be a hard period regardless. Hopefully I'm wrong though. So that's Bitcoin for you guys. Ethereum here on the hour coming out of the sell pressure. It's trying its best here. We're starting to see a little bit of this green candle here. This is just this downtrend that we saw similarly on the Bitcoin chart I just showed you, but makes sense. Ethereum's following Bitcoin still, right? But we are above $3,000, which is a decent threshold to stay above. We're at that 3107. So let's stay above that, right? That's the goal. But I do think it's going to continually look towards Bitcoin until Bitcoin decides it wants to really run up. I don't think ETH does, unless there's some huge just like change of psychology to where they feel, the market feels like alts can, separate itself. Looking at the 4 hour, same thing, breaking down here. It looks like it wants to come out, but not quite ready. That's what I'm seeing for ETH on the 4 hour. And then you look at the daily. The daily, it needs to catch. Same situation, it needs to catch before it really starts to head towards the oversold territory. I have a feeling that we do catch, before maybe it's leading into Sunday or Sunday evening, and then have something next week. I have this feeling that the markets will respond a little positively after having the past three days be a bit bloody here. But that's what I was seeing for Bitcoin, Ethereum. Looking at the crypto bubbles, the alts mixed bag. You can see the top 100 lit protocol bouncing back here. You can see it's up about 11%. WilFi is up almost 10%. So it's 9.4. You see Tau up 7.2%. And then Mix, the personal leverage dex on BSC, up 6%. Zcash taking a big dump, but as you probably know, the founders stepped away from the project. So a pretty big dump there. Just responding directly, but it's down 12%. But hey, I mean, it's still sitting at 400 almost $30, 424. So it's not too bad. We'll see if it has a, I guess, hangover effect on the token or the coin. But I don't think it will. I think there's a lot of support from people that kind of got into that, right? But we'll see. And then you're seeing XMR, so Monero, another privacy coin, bouncing up here, 5.2%. Virtuals protocol up 3.4%. Bitcoin Cash, wow! Every once in a while, you get surprised by one of these old legacy Bitcoin fork type, protocols, up 1.4%. And then some of the memes just across the board, 1.4% pullback for SPX, Floki down 4.5%, Bonk down about 5%, Doge down 3.3% here. Yeah, so across the board, just about I would say maybe 40%, maybe even less, 35% pull up and 65% pull back. And then the top 200, Pippin bouncing back strong here. As you can see, it's at $350 million market cap, pulling up 22.6%. Merlin up about 3%. So that's a good bounce back for Merlin, because it did take a little bit of a beat down, I would say, the past couple days. But that's okay in my book, because it's been pretty much up only towards the second half of last year. So just, I think some people taking some early profit on Merlin, and staking got unstaked and stuff like that. I think definitely they'll pick back up here. XPL pulling back 8.8% here. Plasma, Zora down 5.5%. Anything sticking out to you specifically that kind of pulled back as an industry wide? The only thing I saw was Privacy Together pulling up.
Pulling down, right?
Privacy? No, Privacy.
Zcash?
Oh, sorry. You know what? You're right. Pulling down. Zcash right here.
Yeah, so Zcash got kicked, so all the privacies are going to follow Zcash. Lit Protocol will. We got some news with WilFi. I don't know what's going on with Lit Protocol, but we got to look into it. I mean, we do know that Emblem Vault uses it, and they're one of the biggest holders of that token there from the airdrop. So that's absolutely huge. But like, it's one of those things now where we're kind of like looking and trying to find reasons why Tao's up 7%, right? Why is that? Why is all this other stuff? So single family shizzy glass hoppers. What does that mean?
Well, the San Fran part, he was talking about single family.
Oh,
yeah, I immediately thought San Francisco too. I'll just go,
yeah. I mean, when I see SF, I think maybe it's because I watch a lot of baseball and football. So it says, like, you see SF, you immediately think of that. But Trump doesn't need Congress. He says he's a single family shizzy. I looked at the corner of my eye. I see single family shizzy. I'm like, what are you talking about? I got multiple families. Glass says not San Fran. I got you. And then Stan says prediction market for University of Miami. So yeah, so it's just like it's kind of like going back to your question. Why some of these are outliers right now. Right, like Merlin Chain, for instance, every time Bitcoin goes down, Merlin Chain goes up. I think it's because people kind of use that as safety, because you're getting that 45% yield, where it's like, all right, yeah, maybe the prices. I want to be locked in when earning 45% on my money while Bitcoin's going down. You
I
just
mean,
do.
that makes sense.
Right. So it's like I think it's something like that to do with that, honestly. Because at least, at the end of the year, you're getting 45% Merle if you believe in the product. And with Jeff's building, if you believe in Jeff, which a lot of people do, it's going to be a lot higher than next year. So it's like, why not earn 45%? So I do think that large. But Tau, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why. The Tau was at 215, now it's at 285. I mean, that's almost 60% or 40% or something like that. And it's just moving. And then I don't know what Lip Protocol, why it's moving. It's weird because Lip Protocol kind of reminds me of like Chainlink, like an infrastructure play.
Yeah.
And it's, I just don't know why it's sexy, but
Yeah. Interoperability, they're probably selling that really well. And, I think they do have an opportunity to continually, thrive if they, you know, continually put themselves in the light correctly like they have been, it seems like, but who else is really getting into it? And so I think, we saw something similar to Merlin the last 6 months, right? Where people were like, Merlin's green consistently, like what's going on? I think they're just making the right moves, just like Lip Protocol is probably doing. I think Lip Protocol also, I think they got a spot listing on Coinbase.
yeah, they did.
Yeah. So, and I think they're
Could be it.
located here as well. And so there's some things definitely going for it.
100%. All right, let's get into some news here. Zcash development team resigns after a broad dispute. So on January 7th, Electric Coin Company CEO announced the full team's resignation due to a governance clash with Bootstrap nonprofit board over legal compliance and mission alignment. The group, including chief scientist Chelsea Comlo, is that
Chelsea,
one person?
I'm not sure. She's probably on the board.
The girl with the beard, or no?
Oh, the girl with the beard.
Yeah. Plans to form a new
I see what you're
company to build it nonstop. That was the only way I could say it without saying it. Private money while stressing Zcash's protocol. So one thing you have to understand: if Bitcoin Core all resigned, would you worry about Bitcoin? Because I wouldn't. Right, because there's incentive mechanisms in place for people to say, you know what, I'll start coding for Bitcoin, right? Because what happens is donations. People give donations. So if the entire board resigned, right, new people would pop up tomorrow. They would just pop up tomorrow, no problem. Zcash, they've had their founders, the people that forked Bitcoin and created Zcash, they've all kind of just sat there, all docs and just sat on the board, but they can't do anything to Zcash, right? Because it's still, at the end of the day, there still would have to be a 51% hard fork because it is hardware. I mean, it is proof of work. So you would still need 51% of the network to choose the direction. So this doesn't make any sense to me. These people can't do anything anyway. So for this price to drop 9% on these guys leaving, they haven't done an update to Zcash in I think like 4 or 5 years. So there hasn't been any type of haven't done anything for 4 to 5 years except sit there on the board and make decisions that maybe they upload, like did like a Taproot wallet or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it hasn't been like for 4 years. And it's just, who cares? Go away. It's decentralized. It's the beauty of this decentralization.
It's going to survive, I believe, just like Doge did, right?
Yeah.
Doge survived after the founders kind of walked away and washed their hands with it. So I think this is a similar situation in the fact that there was a craze for Zcash last year, and I think it continues. What happens out of that craze is people make money, lots of money, and then they become loyal to Zcash, the brand of the token, right? And so I think Zcash is fine. This is just a little market headline that bears probably made some money off of.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, though, there is one thing. People are a little worried about them forking Zcash, just making their, just forking the chain and saying this is the real Zcash, very similar to what Bitcoin Cash did, but it didn't work out for Bitcoin Cash. People think that these guys are just going to come together and they're going to create their own privacy network, right? They're going to get funding because of who they are and what they've created before, and they're going to make billions of dollars. Because they're going to create something that's going to be a top 100 coin because off their name and off what Zcash is, and it'll be something related to privacy, right? So there's two areas where they could go. They could all just go and fork Zcash and continue their mission, or they can wash their hands with Zcash and start building the next privacy, and they'll get tons of funding to do so.
I think Zcash survives though. I think it continually does what it, where like there's a community behind it. Because people could have done the same thing with Doge if they weren't happy. Someone could have forked Doge. Someone could have, but Doge is a little different because it was a joke. So people like it was more of a normie actual onboarding impact. I think Doge had, right? Zcash probably there's more of technical minds that maybe have these type of conversations about it, but I still think it survives even if they take that route of doing their own thing. But because there's a lot of money behind it right now, right? Or at least people holding the token and stuff. So interesting though, because the Zcash team should be probably thankful for this last year, because now they're back in the spotlight. They get more opportunity, and I'm sure they had a good amount of Zcash whenever this like ramped up. So
the foundation held a ton of it. So but they'll that's the foundation. So we'll see what they do if they sell it down. Or normally a foundation, you don't want to sell your coin, but the ETH Foundation, they love selling Ethereum. So who knows? Stan says Mimble Wimble for Litecoin. Yeah, you can build something like that. And Stan says, where's Arch Network? So I don't know if Arch Network can be what Arch Network says they're going to be. Like, I think Arch Network's going to end up just being a Solana fork with bridging on. I don't know if it's possible with the way Bitcoin is, with the the block restructuring and stuff like that, for you to successfully roll up transactions and land them on Bitcoin. Right? I just don't see it. But then I see what RichSwap is doing, and they've been successful with that. So I don't know. Maybe it is possible. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Arch Network has been very, 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 very quiet. So
yeah, well, I mean, I was just checking their X to see if they were still posting, and I do see that they posted an hour ago. So they're still posting on X, but I don't know when their release is going to be, because that has been postponed many of times. But to be fair, a lot of people have postponed launches and things like that. The ICP, Omnity, I feel like they definitely have a group of really intelligent minds that have passion to scale Bitcoin, and utilized and leveraged it, had really close connection with the ICP Foundation and stuff. And so they have all the resources, and they just build, right? And so I think that's where they had that advantage. But we'll see. I'm rooting for them. We got to know those guys pretty well. We did Arch Thursdays, and it was never official partnership or anything. It was more about educating you guys, and I'm hoping that those were worth it, right? To where they actually release something to where it can actually scale Bitcoin, but we'll see.
Yeah, we had no choice to cover Arch and Tap because we're Ordinal Revolution, and there wasn't anything else. Right? So we were up against the wall before we opened the horizon to OnChain Revolution, and we're able to cover more aspects of crypto. But Glasshopper actually has news that I missed. He says it was announced yesterday that Tau will be listed by Japan Binance. One, I didn't know there was a Japan Binance, and two, I guess there's a Binance.
There's like every big country Binance,
yeah. So 100%. All right, this one is right up your alley, bro. So woo! All right, this is a long one though, so I'm gonna actually I'll share my screen so you guys can read along if you want to. But 1 second.
While you're doing that, Stan says prediction market for University of Miami versus Ole Miss play. Not financial advice, but I gotta say, Miami has looked amazing since they made the play. I think the biggest mistake was allowing them in the playoffs, or not mistake because it was the board that got them in. But man, they just playing them at the wrong time. But that's just me. Ole Miss looked good too last time though. So
I watched their last game and they were the underdog, and they came out and won. Yeah,
they looked good too. They played Georgia. They beat Georgia. So
that's what I'm saying. They were the underdog by a lot of points.
I'm hoping it's a good game, but if I had to pick an edge, I would say Miami. But man, you never know. It should be a fun one.
All right, so I'm curious of your opinion on this because, like I said, it's up your alley. So, did Morgan Stanley pull off the biggest crypto manipulation? The sequence of Bitcoin's October crash and January recovery looks like a plan set up, and the data supports it. Let's go through it. October 10th, the trigger. So many people don't realize October 10th was the same day where the MSCI basically came out and smacked MicroStrategy holders, right? They said MSCI originally as Morgan Stanley division. So they used to be a Morgan Stanley division company. announced a proposal to remove digital asset treasury companies from its global indexes. That included firms like MicroStrategy, Metaplanet, whose balance sheets hold billions worth of Bitcoin. This wasn't a small change because MSCI indexes guide trillions of dollars in passive flows. If those firms were removed, pension funds, ETFs would be forced to sell. Institutional exposure to Bitcoin would shrink. Liquidity would tighten sharply. Minutes after the announcement, Bitcoin dropped nearly $18,000, erasing more than 19 billion. So this was the reason for the start
900 billion
of the crash. 900 billion, yeah, from its crypto total capital market. So yeah, and this was the reason. This was the unraveling, right? I don't think they were expecting Binance.
What date was that? Was there a date
10,
up there?
10
when this was announced? Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
October 10th, the trigger.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Okay, so then the 3 months pressure window stayed open until December 31st, meaning 3 full months of uncertainty. That overhang froze demand. Passive investors avoided exposure. Index-linked funds risked for selling. Prices stayed weak. Settlement collapsed. During this period, Bitcoin dropped about 31%. Altcoins even more. It was the worst quarter for crypto since 2018. January 1st, sudden pump starts. From January 1st, Bitcoin starts pumping without any bullish news. And in the first 5 days, 2026, Bitcoin jumped 8%. That's a 7,300-hour pump from 87 to 94. No one knew why, but somehow the relentless selling stopped and Bitcoin was printing back-to-back green candles. These were probably insiders who knew what was coming next. January 5th and 6th, the reversal. Then somehow in 24 hours, everything flipped. First, Morgan Stanley filed for its own Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana ETFs. Then in a few hours, MSCI announced that it would not remove heavy crypto-related companies at all. The exact rule that caused the 3 months of selling pressure was suddenly withdrawn the same day Morgan Stanley launched a product that benefits a recovering market. What do you think, dude?
This is what I mean whenever I talk about, TradFi playing the game to where they're intentionally driving markets down and buy stuff cheap, and then intentionally driving markets up, and because they know that they bought all that Bitcoin for cheap and they eventually are going to dump it, right? So it's just like, this is a constant thing, I think, that we probably experienced, especially the second half of 2025. And until they get held accountable, I don't think, this is going to stop. I don't think it's going to stop, and that, look, at the end of the day, there's a game to all this. We know that, even before TradFi came in, it's always been a game. It's whoever holds the bag last, right? But for them, it's about how much can I make? How much can I make? I'm going to make the most I can. I'm going to squeeze as much as I can every single time, rinse and repeat, and that's the difference. That's the difference that our market's dealing with now. And they have all the media connections and headlines. We're seeing it here as a perfect example, right? And money can make, get a lot of parties involved with this in terms of, hey, this is not saying it straight up, but this is what's going to happen, and then this will happen afterwards. So, this is nothing new. The TradFi markets experienced this. It's just never policed in, really. And so when it is, they slap like a fine on them, which they can pay because they make more by doing this rinse and repeat over and over. So to them, it's worth it.
Yeah. First thing I thought was F Morgan Stanley. If they did this on purpose or not, this is a side company from them. And then the day that they obviously knew that the MSCI, or they wouldn't launch those products. They wouldn't put their clients at risk, right? Their projects are out. You can buy them now. So the day that they put this out is the same day that the MSCI kind of just goes away, right? It's like you can buy all these stocks now again. Like, they're perfectly fine, and it's the same day where Bitcoin's fine again. Like, it's wow.
To benefit high
it was
end,
definitely eye opening.
To benefit, large size account clients, possibly, right? I mean, I'm just saying, you know, I'm throwing any type of
I
speculation
mean,
out
they
there
had
just
3
for
months to
fun,
get their
but
get clients in early, because that's the thing too. When you release a product, you probably had that product running for a few months. You know what I mean, before it's released
yeah.
publicly, because internally, so they probably had their high end clients buying
And then you got to
Bitcoin
sell
at
that product.
80,000.
You got to sell that
Yeah,
product, and you're going to sell it to the people that can earn you the most profit. And what does that
yep,
mean? You need humongous size,
yep.
right? I mean, this is stuff that's, you know, again, it just happens in the world of business too. So
100%. Let's move along. So, January 15th vote scheduled for crypto market structure bill. So the Senate's have a bill, and it will be voted on potentially next week, 7 days from today. So this is the bill right here, targeting January 15th, a long-awaited market structure bill. People are saying, though, that this will not get pushed into law. It's not. It's one of those things we're going to vote on there, and then they're all going to read it for the first time, and then they're going to make changes. So, but it's a good first step to kind of get this at least on the Congress's floor and have them at least starting to read it and understand it, and then have the inputs of, you know, Kraken is somebody that's really speaking to some of these senators, Coinbase as well. So I'm really kind of hoping that, you know, potentially this does pass next week, because what that would do for markets, I think a huge explosion happens if this gets passed next week.
I hope so. You know, some people say that it won't do too much. It's more for just companies, new companies coming into the space. But I think it will. I think people will get excited about it. It's a win. Like, this space at this point will take any win. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really going to let us know what we can and can't do, though, right? So I think that's a big part of it. Is like a lot of these. So like that's the reason why you're not seeing Robinhood launch their chain yet. Like they're creating their business, but they're not going to put it out until the market structure bills happen. You're going to see potentially Amazon start, you know, letting you pay using Bitcoin or something. That won't happen until we get this bill. You know, Walmart, same thing, right? There's rumors that Walmart's going to let you start buying and paying with Bitcoin. It's not official yet because they're waiting for this bill. I think once that happens, you're going to see a lot of Web 2 giants start, you know, at least dipping their toe in the crypto ecosystem, whether it's stable coins or whether it's actual crypto.
Starting a new company or something like that. But we'll also be able to see what these trading firms and fund managers can be held accountable for a little bit. Maybe, you know, I think that's a big part of it, because the Clarity Act, I think, is more for kind of what you and I just talked about before. It's like stabilizing the you know, I guess like the clarity for these new companies that want to come in, or existing Web 2 giants that want to build something big. But this market structure, I hope that they put some clear black and white rules in it. Yeah,
100%. All right, so we talked about a few minutes ago about, you know, about Bitcoin dumping on the MSCI news, you know, $19,000. But why didn't it pump yesterday? I found out why. So we do know yesterday that they came out and they basically came out and said, yeah, it's fine. These trucks will not be getting taken out. There will be no forced selling. But we didn't look at the fine print. So the fine print says, if you go kind of all the way down here, when MicroStrategy in the past created new shares of the company, right, and sold those into the market, these indices were forced buyers. They had to go and buy 8% because they had to keep their ratio at a certain height. So if they guaranteed 8%, they had to go into the market and buy to where they got the 8% again. Because obviously, you know, when you're adding new shares, your percentage goes down and stuff like that. So they were forced sellers. So now MicroStrategy adds new shares again, they no longer have to. That's one of the rules that were passed yesterday. They no longer have to go into the market and actually buy shares MicroStrategy anymore. So the forced selling is gone. That is why MicroStrategy really didn't pump. That is why Bitcoin really didn't pump, because this news, in a way, was a clear up. So everything's kind of clear now. But at the same time, it wasn't great news because there was things that did change going forward.
Yeah, the buy pressure isn't forced, right? Is basically what they're saying. So, which I think actually makes sense, you know, if because you want that to happen whenever the markets are healthy, you know, and it reflects that, right? So it kind of jumps on the train. So, you know, I think this is a clear up, and we can move forward from this and realize that we're probably going to see more situations like that in the future.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Moving along, Trump family's crypto firm World Liberty Financial applies for the U.S. banking license. Do they get it? And they got the big guy in the chair. Do they get this passed?
It depends on, well, maybe not. If I was them, I would want to get it passed as soon as possible, because I feel like if they do lose, part of the part of Congress, then there could be more trouble for them. And I know that they don't necessarily have to go through that, right? Because Wolfeye is a company, but I'm just saying, like, getting it probably before he's going to get more and more pushback, because there's going to be so much resistance this year, just from a political standpoint. It's like, get this done ASAP if they can. Now, do I agree with that this is good or bad? That's a whole nother conversation, right? I mean, banking and crypto is typically like oil and water, but except for now, because they seem to be embracing it, or at least from the surface level, it seems to be that way. But if Wolfeye's trying to get a banking license, then I think they realize that it's the banks are going to be intertwined with crypto. It's inevitable, right? So I guess this is a good indicator that banks probably are going to just be on board and not try to fight so much anymore, and that those days are hopefully behind us.
Yeah, I mean, if all these banks are playing with crypto, why not push them in? But I went and looked and see who has to approve this. It's not Congress. It's not, the president's branch. It's
The
not
Fed?
It's actually the Fed. Yeah. And that just kind of shows you, right? So if you apply now, normally it takes like 3-4 months to kind of get this through. Who's going to be potentially the head of the Fed?
Oh, they'll get that.
That's what I'm saying. So they'll potentially, it's perfect timing. And, potentially they might not want the new Fed chairman to actually be forced to pass this. They might want it to be Jerome Powell, in the sense of you don't want that, like, in the back of your head, where if they get a Democratic Fed coming forward, they can get clipped. But if it was the previous administration, a good guy, Jerome Powell, he passed this, I don't think it gets clipped if we get passed.
But do you think he will pass
Fed
it?
chairman. I think he will. He has come out and he says he believes banks should be able to use crypto.
Yeah, he did,
right
to start the year.
And so if you're saying that, and you're looking at, as long as World Liberty has everything else in place, and I don't know if they do or if they don't, but as long as they have everything else in place where they look like Bank of America, because the whole point of this is getting FDIC certified. That's the whole reason why you want a U.S. banking license, is if all your clients, if whatever money they have in there, they can get up to, I think it's about $200,000-$300,000 of insurance from FDIC for each account that is.
I think it's 150.
Is it 150? Okay. So FDIC. So basically, if anything does happen in your account, you're good. You're good up to 150,000, which will allow millions of people to put 150 grand in and feel safe. Right, feel very safe, because nothing can happen to their money in that sense, which is going to open up a lot more clientele and stuff like that. So I think, like I said, if they have everything else in place, I don't think the crypto area should be that big of a deal for Jerome Powell. He should be okay. But again, if Jerome Powell does say no, then do you think in a few months?
If he says no, do you think it's because of personal?
It could be, but
that's the only thing that I would say would hold it back. But I mean, if he's professional and he then we'll see
if they look like Bank of America, right? When you're looking at their balance sheets and everything, and you're like, and the only reason you do fail them is because of their Trump name. I mean, it's kind of effed up, but you're not doing
250K, 250K.
Yeah, that's
FDIC.
Who put that in there?
Arita.
Shout out to Arita. Shout out to Arita. So for some reason, Arita, man, if I ever miss your comments, it's because the X chat for some reason goes to the top of the chat.
Yeah.
So
I started scrolling recently just to catch it.
He said, I think cash inferior to
Zcash
due to lack Zcash. Oh, okay. I gotcha. FDIC. Yeah. Shout out to Rita, man. Appreciate you, my friend.
That's the thing about Zcash too, is that like it doesn't, like, naturally it's not just private. Like, you have to do something to put your transaction into a private state. And so Monero is just naturally private.
Wyoming launches their first state-issued stablecoin, FRNT, and it's running on Solana. That's the only chain it's running on right now. How do you feel about that? Wyoming choosing Solana. Why choose Solana over base chain?
Because it's fast.
Yeah.
You experienced that. You
I
built
did.
something recently, and you use both chains.
Yep, it was insane. The difference between Base and Solana is absolutely so you don't really notice it when you're using Base chain because you're like, oh, cool, my transaction went through. But compared to Solana is four times faster. Sometimes it's 10 times faster because Base chain gets caught.
Yeah. I wonder if you could have tried Monad and saw if it was a similar speed, because that would have been the ultimate speed test, because you literally had them right next to each other.
For sure. US spot XRP ETFs saw the first net outflow after 36 days. Yesterday, January 7th, was the first time.
The first one? No way.
It's only been 36 days, but it's the first one for XRP. Yeah.
Yeah, Solana's hit multiple. Yeah. There's another one that did pretty well. I forgot that. I was a little shocked on. But yeah, I mean, this is at least we've gotten here. So
100%. Optimism Foundation has proposed using 50% of Superchain revenue to buy OP tokens pending as January 22nd vote. The program is set to launch in February. Superchain is Optimism's umbrella network of many L2s, often called op chains, that are built using OP stack and designed to work together with shared standards, upgrades, and everything else that comes with that. I don't know what that word is. I got cut off there, but everything else that comes with it. But yeah, this is something, you got to remember, Base chain runs on top of Optimism.
So would that flow into that?
So Optimism, every transaction that you pay.
No, I mean, but would Base chain flow into in the umbrella of the Superchain? Because it says if you go to the next statement here, it says, the Superchain is an umbrella of Ethereum L2s. So I would imagine Base chain would be one of those.
So basically, it's still its own chain. So it's just using Optimism's tech stack to roll up the transactions.
I know that part, but I'm just
saying. So
go ahead.
So a portion of the fees that Base pays Optimism will now be 50% of that will now go to buying back the OP token.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
That's the whole point of doing this. It's just to buy back 50% of the OP token, using 50% of the revenue. So forever. So they're basically, every single time there's a transaction, those transactions get rolled up. A portion of those fees go to Optimism. A portion of those fees go to Ethereum for the roll up. So whatever the roll up cost is, Optimism puts another tax on top of there. So that's how Optimism makes money. That's how they get revenue.
And I think they needed this, because you saw that they were this infrastructure servicer for big brands, and their token was not reflecting that really. So this is a good mechanism for them to put in to really show that, right? So, but I'm curious what other ETH2s would flow into that. So Base, obviously, they're going to benefit immensely, I think, from that. But do you know of any other big brands that flow under that would be a part of this network?
See, I do not off the top of my head,
because it seems like they have like a good amount the way that they worded this.
Yeah, I know Base is probably like 90% of the fees, but I don't think it's any big chain. But I will get that answer because that's a really good question. I probably should have prepared that. But yeah, so ETH. It does look like it's Unichain, World Chain, Mode Network,
Zora Network.
The Mode. Zora?
Yeah, Zora's on that list. It says Zora Network, a layer 2 focused on creator economy. But I think they have their own too.
Zora's an L2?
Yeah, they have their own, but it's very specialized into it. Because I'm looking at the list right now. You hit them, the Base, Unichain, Inc, Kraken.
Oh wow,
that's big. Yeah, Ronin's a big name.
Oh yeah.
Fractal, Redstone, I'm not familiar with. Chroma and Lyra, I'm not familiar with those last three, but they got some big names on there, right? That can do some big volume potentially, like Inc could in the future, right? They market that correctly, and they have the right partnerships. Unichain, obviously, Uniswap. So
I'm curious why Robinhood chose Arbitrum over Optimism, because they're both doing the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, good question. Because adding Robinhood to that would have been huge for Optimism. I wonder why they missed out. Might have been a fee thing. I don't know. I'll actually look into that. VitalikButerin came out and says Ethereum is not a world video game server. It is the world's heartbeat. If you need apps that run faster than the heartbeat, you will need off-chain components. So he's open for, TradFi.
Did he have to tell us that? I think we all pretty much.
He put out a 2-page article, and this was the big thing.
Oh,
it just shows you got to remember, right? So Ordinals, off-chain indexer, right? Running on Bitcoin, right? Runes, off-chain indexer, right? So he's basically coming out and saying that off-chain indexers are okay. He doesn't, he's not saying they're evil, which I originally thought that he felt that way. I thought anything off-chain that is, technically is, centralized. So he's okay with some of these big firms coming in now, running Ethereum, but running a secondary, maybe some type of system or something that is off-chain that refers
that's a part
that
of
can be
it.
manipulated.
Yeah.
So
Well, because if you are a centralized company, then you might like some aspects of Ethereum security and storing data there, right? And transactions, but them landing there, but before they get there, or some other aspects of the business then that you need really customized to what you offer. That could be it. But it's funny that because I like immediately thought about like heartbeats, and I was like, Bitcoin's probably like a resting heart rate of like 8.
Yeah.
Ethereum's probably a resting heart rate of like 50. And then you get the higher ones with like,
Solana's on cocaine,
150. Bro. Yeah, Solana's on cocaine. But that 8, man, you fill that 8 with Bitcoin for sure if you're trying to do stuff on there.
Bitcoin's like the hibernating bear where they get like one heartbeat every like 4 hours or something.
But it's healthy. Like if you have a lower resting heart rate, that means you're more healthy.
Yeah. All right, so this one was crazy. So SlowMist, which is like a security analyst, has issued a security alert warning users to be cautious when doing vibe coding or using mainstream IDEs. Simply using open folder on a project may trigger system command execution on both. SlowMist highlighted that cursor users are practically at risk as openly malicious crafted project dictionaries could instantly compromise the system. Several AI coding users have already been affected. Developers are advised to avoid opening untrusted projects. So this is a big deal because everyone is vibe coding right now. And your AI might go in and start using something that somebody maliciously puts into a library because the AI is like, this is perfect. This is what I need.
This works.
I'm being prompted to do. This works. And then when your users end up going into using it, they start downloading malware because of your project without you even being knowledgeable of it. And it could be thousands of vibe coders all downloading the same package. And SlowMist is already coming out and saying vibe coders don't know how to read code. They don't. They're depending on the AI to do so. And if the AI misses it and they don't do the right audits and stuff like that, then you're going to have users coming to use your project and be downloading malware.
I bet you SlowMist owns a auditing protocol, but they have a point.
That's a good question.
But they have a point. So I would definitely report on this, especially if I had an auditing protocol. But SlowMist has been around forever, man. I remember they were around in 2021.
Security audits. You hit that on the head, bro.
But I mean, it's a smart business. It's a smart business headline to put out there, right? Like we have an auditing thing, so you guys might want to. I mean, like you should audit. Like if you have a serious project that's gonna have serious money on it eventually, and that's your goal, get an audit right now.
Yeah.
You might have to raise some money to get an audit because supposedly they easily 5-figure cost. So SlowMist, maybe you can make that cheaper for people, then they would audit more. But I do expect AI to get better and catch these things as well, right? It's interesting messing with the different AI models right now because you really learn how they have their strengths and their weaknesses, and you can tell sometimes that ChatGPT was the first one because it's almost like there's the really good aspects of it when it comes to like conversation and project management in a sense, but when it comes to execution and they got to do something about the conversation length. They should force a conversation out, because what ends up happening is some of the browsers, like you might have to wait 15 minutes. It's not your computer, it's the conversation. And it's taking ChatGPT that long to kind of look at it and all these things. Anyways, but like the newer ones, like I used Claude yesterday for the first time. Love it. You know, Gemini's great, I think, as well. But they will eventually add in these kind of, you know, making sure that, you know, the files aren't malicious and stuff like that. But, you know, this is good because these are the type of things that we need to see and learn from. You don't want users getting wrecked, and you don't want to be wrecked yourself.
I mean, I've done this. I've told, you know, I've been trying to build something for a while, and I've said, hey, get me this, right? Give me this API key for this. And I don't know what the hell API key is getting, but if using the API key can force a, you know, potential bug into the code to where people are downloading malware from my system, you know, just because, you know, or maybe, you know, getting wallet keys because, you know, you're signing something you didn't even know that it's secret in the wallet. You don't know you're signing. You're just connecting your wallet, but in reality, you might be signing your wallet over. So, and I've done wallet connections to where I don't know what's going on in the back end. I can't read the code. I'm just hoping that the AI knows what it's doing, right? And it works properly. But in reality, I don't know if I'm giving access to my wallet to somebody that with an API key that I don't even know who provided me with.
Yeah.
So, yes, sirs. Let's jump into a final thing here. The last thing we got for you guys today is news from the trenches. So I did hear White Whale is officially over where you said it would. You called this. You said $100 million, and it is way above that. A couple fake outs along the way, though, but it always ends up getting back above this green trend line. I mean, this trend has been happening for over months. And, you know, if you are in this, congratulations. The White Whale guy, he put $300 in, and it is now valued at over $800,000. So
now that is a win.
And he lost all of his money in 1010, right? I mean, that's what everyone's saying in 1010. So he pretty much got it all back because of White Whale. And I never heard of this guy.
Me neither.
This coin dropped, which is
I didn't hear of him either. But wasn't there rumor that Thread Guy launched this coin?
Yes, that was a rumor. He has never came out and said that he actually did. Let me follow this guy, but yeah. So yeah. Oh, this is the meme. This isn't the actual thing, but. How do you feel about the trenches right now? Yesterday was a little eye-opening. We went over a lot of pump fund statistics. I looked at them today. Not really much to report. Very similar to what was happening yesterday. Are you seeing anything on your side that would maybe make you think that the trenches are a place to be right now?
Not really. You know, this is kind of like a troll moment. The troll coin that went on that run. I don't know if White Whale is going to get to 200 million because Troll got to, I think, like 250 or 270 or something like that, maybe 240. And that's where it capped at. But the Troll token, I think people expected that to be like this spark for the rest of the space, and it didn't really do that necessarily. This, we're going to find out if this can do that, right? Because I'm looking at Deck Screener right now in terms of the market cap, because these are the ones that are more established over the past, 24 hours, but they go far back, right? Of however long they've been in existence. They show the higher volume ones. And I mean, you're still seeing, 150K, 1.2 million, maybe some of these 14 days ago, $3 million. So, when you're not seeing like these consistent $10 million runs, that's 7 million or 7 days old. 20 million, that's like 15 days old consistently. You're not seeing that yet. And it's going to take liquidity in the markets to be just, having enough liquidity for retail to want to gamble again. We're not there. But what does happen is you get kicked off by something like a really big coin that does well. So White Whale gets to like $1 billion or something like that. I assume that's going to attract some more people, but we need better sentiment as a whole for the entire space before that happens. Because if you force that right now, it just probably won't work as well. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I completely agree. So nothing really happened in there. So yeah, that's our show, guys. I really appreciate you guys today. A lot bigger today than
Show
the
out.
last couple of days. So that's really
Yeah.
nice to kind of see, especially on a red day like today. So just want to say, I really appreciate you guys rocking with us, man. We're going to make sure we find you guys the opportunity. So keep being here with us. Today's show was very macro, but it needed to be. There's a lot of macro events that we need to be aware of. You can like it, love it, whatever. It doesn't matter. We need to be aware of what is happening in the macro because that's going to affect how we're kind of seeing the markets. So bear with us on days like this, but we got to do what we got to do because we want to keep you guys informed, keep you guys in, and keep you guys locked in for the long term here.
Absolutely. I mean, good show out, for macro headline, I feel like for sure. And it was fun. We were talking about, San Francisco housing or single family housing, right? So
Shizzy family housing.
Yeah, there you go. Shizzy family housing. There you go. But appreciate each and every one of you guys. Without you guys, we could not do the show. We are very thankful for all the support. And believe me, it matters, man, because I'll tell you, during the slowest times, you kind of question yourself a little bit sometimes, but then you realize why you're here and stuff, and you keep pushing forward, right? So that's the whole goal. So we appreciate you, really grateful for that. And then also, without our partners, though, we couldn't do this show, definitely, and we are grateful for them. So if you could check them out, we would greatly appreciate that as well. And Merlin Chain is uniting Bitcoin strength through the power of AI, as they have their Wizard version 2.0 that guides you through the Merlin Chain ecosystem. But it also can guide you outside the ecosystem. All you got to do is have some Merlin Chain Bitcoin in your Merlin Chain wallet, and it can buy some Solana tokens that are hot, maybe White Whale or a BNB tokens. But going back to the ecosystem, it is it can guide you through, Merlin swaps, do some swaps for you. It can also stake on your behalf. And speaking of staking, Merlin Chain is a proof of stake security model. You can participate in 3 ways. The first way is staking Bitcoin to earn more Bitcoin. And this product has been really hot since they released it in, I want to say Q2, maybe. I think no, quarter 3. Yeah, because Q2, because the first staking vault ended September 30th. They got 17% APR for their stakers there. And the second staking vault ends today. So if you're in the staking vault, then you can expect some, your rewards to be announced when you can get those, right? So really exciting stuff. Congratulations to you guys. And then the third staking vault should be announced soon. They're going to still shoot for that, range, the minimum of 8%, maximum 21% APR. And remember, you get paid out in Bitcoin for the stake. So really exciting stuff there. And then there's 2 ways to participate with the Merlin Chain token. The first way is the flexible day-to-day. You earn 15% APR with the Merlin Chain flexible, and you can claim your rewards every single day. You can do whatever you want with those rewards, roll them up. You can do, compound interest strategy. You can sell them, keep them in your wallet, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. But just know, if you do withdraw your Merlin Chain tokens, it's a 7-day cooldown period for the flexible option. And then the bonded option is a 6-month lockup period. You earn 45% APR. So the APR jumps up because they are locked up for 6 months, right? But you can claim your rewards every single day. So that is a huge win on that aspect. Just know they're locked up for 6 months there. And then that is it in terms of the proof of stake and how you guys can get involved. Really exciting stuff for this team. Go to merlinchain.io, learn about the project, the team, and what their future, goals are. As you know, they got listed on perps for Coinbase, and look forward to new updates. You can follow them on X as well at Merlin Layer 2. So go over there and follow them. And then our next partner is Satsman.fun, which is a fun meme rune launchpad on Bitcoin Layer 1. They utilize ICP's tech stack to make this a good, pleasant experience for you guys. So you don't have to wait 40 minutes for a block, right? You can actually, just buy tokens very quickly, because once the tokens get bonded from here, they go to richswap.io, and that's where the liquidity lives and all those great things there. And then they have 2 Genesis tokens that they launched themselves. The first one is 7Z, which is the very first token, definitely catching momentum. And the second one is Landwolf. And then they're going to open this up to the public. If you go to our YouTube library, you can see a couple educational videos. The last one we did Monday this week, we show you guys how to launch a token. We also get into some aspects, if you're interested in creating a community for a meme token, some stuff that we have seen that has shown success with meme communities there. But once they actually do open this up, which should be any day now, we're going to show you guys exactly, how to do the launch, even though we did in that educational tutorial there. We'll do it live as well. So it should be fun. But yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out our partners, guys.
Yup. Great job, man, as always. And ZZZ is running, bro. This thing has been on a tear since it launched here from back to Christmas Day. This thing has just been running. So shout out to anyone in the ZZZ community. Absolutely awesome to see there. But if you guys have a few more minutes and wouldn't mind to check out onchainrevolution.io, brand new article just dropped. Why Fed liquidity, QE signals, and stimulus could ignite crypto in 2026. You definitely need to check this out. It's kind of what we went over today on the show. So definitely check this out. They're 2 to 3 minute reads, but it gets really in depth, right? We don't really get very in depth here, but if you really want to understand what is happening, this is everything you need to know. Check that out. We got articles here every single day. So, I mean, check them all out here. You got Creator Capital Markets, Maryland Chain. Check them all out here, guys. And if you guys need a VPN, I highly recommend Nord. The price did go up recently, so you don't waste any more time. Like, seriously, this price could really go up. It was $2.99, now it's 3.39. But get it, lock it in for 2 years, guys. Set it, forget it. This will allow you to use sites like Hyperliquid. This will allow you to use sites like even Polymarket and other stuff like that. Polymarket is in the US, but the markets are limited. If you want the full experience, put yourself to Italy using a VPN. It is very legal to do that. There's nothing illegal about a VPN, guys. Get it today. Privacy is a right. When you go to these sites, you're giving them your IP. Your IP leads them to your home address with your family. Do not be going to crypto sites without a VPN. Check it out today here at onchainrevolution.io. And if you guys are interested in a hardware wallet, I love Ledger. If you are interested in getting yourself a Nano or a Ledger X, these ones, in my opinion, are the best. I love these two. I'm just old school in the sense of these hardware wallets, but you can check out some of the newer ones as well. And you guys can find everything at onchainrevolution.io. Real quick, Glasshopper says, Shizzy, check out Tau staking cubicle. What's that? Cubicle wallet.
Crucible. Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I guess it's the brand.
I would like to hear
your
take on
the
it.
name of the product.
Glasshopper, send me the link, man. If you don't send at Shizzy on X. I would love to check that out for sure. But that's our show, guys. Really appreciate you guys. And until tomorrow.
Peace.
OnChain revolution roll call. Market recap. You not bullish enough, no. You're not bullish enough, no. Look at the price go, Bitcoin control. Why you still coping? Price action rolling. Don't fall for bear trap. Swapping indexes and putting it up in the sex. I can take profit right now. OnChain is where I be now. You can never look back. They don't want you to know. How did the market react? Fear and greed, gotta adapt. Now we bridging the tokens and arching the network right now. You know how crazy we are. Nookies are savages now. They know how crazy we are. Chain abstraction, main attraction. OnChain revolution.